So pruning in spring is the time you want to do it if you're trying to invigorate plants, because that's just before they're sprouting. You're pruning and all that energy is going to go into new growth and go into allowing them to grow even bigger. You saw citrus in this garden. It would be a good time to prune citrus as long as we think all danger of frost is past. If you haven't pruned all your roses, then you're slightly late, but you'd want to do it now. Now, maybe you have plants that you don't want to grow bigger, so we're going to trick them. As soon as they put on all that spring growth, then we're going to prune. And then that inhibits and hinders this process of photosynthesis, which encourages more growth. We're going to cut that back by taking all these new leaves off. And so then you would be pruning in late spring or mid-spring or early summer, and that's the way to control growth on things. If you were to read textbooks about planting and adding plants to the garden, there would be two times that were emphasized: early spring and early fall. And probably early spring is the best, because early fall is followed by possibly severe winters, which could damage new plants. So this is a good time to add color, and a lot of people seem to want to add color. And if it's annual color, which takes the most care and the most water, I would focus those around close-up viewing areas at entrances and such, rather than doing mass displays of them all throughout the garden. We'll be adding lots of colorful plants here, things like lantana and roses and blush pink nandina. Obviously, there's all kinds of plants that are colorful in different ways. I was listening to a podcast today. They were talking about the colorful nature of fruiting blueberries, because at different times of the year they have leaves that are colorful. So lots of things can provide color. This is the time to look at that and add new plants of any kind. What I'm constantly trying to do is use things that improve the soil, because it's the soil that's the most powerful way to prevent and defeat pests and diseases. So we don't want to use chemical pesticides, but there's a number of organic pesticides that are tremendously effective at building the soil and addressing pests and diseases at the same time. If you're building the soil properly, you end up with a lot of good nematodes, and good nematodes eat grubs, or the beginning forms of grubs. And so if you have a healthy soil, usually you won't have a grub problem. Now, to get there, sometimes it takes a while and you don't want to put up with grubs. Look into using our products plus the use of beneficial nematodes. Some other products that are natural pesticides that work fantastic is like BT, stands for Bacillus thuringiensis. That's made from a beneficial bacteria that is effective for a lot of pests. And then also spinosad, which is similar to BT in that it's made from a beneficial bacteria, also effective on a lot of pests and works pretty quickly. There's a range of organic solutions that build soil while they address your pest or disease, and that's what I would look to do, starting with the beneficial nematodes. Anytime you're focused on improving soil, an important part of improving soil is some type of top dressing mulch. And that can be a wood-based compost, or that can be earthworm castings, or any type, usually of a wood-based product. I'd say from 1 inch to 2 inches thick, no thicker than that. And as you get next to the root zones and the base of the plant, then it goes down in thickness. Do I need to pull back the mulch prior to using our products? Our products are formulated for convenience, so we formulated them so you don't need to do that. You can just throw it right over the top of mulch. But if you have the option, we want you to put the mulch over the product. In a garden like this, where we've been hired to turn it around from dismal performance to an excellent performance, we found a lot of broken sprinklers that weren't turning, areas that sprinklers were too far apart, drip irrigation that was broken, some that didn't have emitters. So we're going through, and to the best of our ability, before it gets hot, we're maximizing the effectiveness and efficiency of this system, because we're going to be relying on it when we get into the summer and 100-degree temperatures. Some of you are in areas where you don't need to worry about that so much because you have water throughout the year, then that's less important. But in all the areas where you need some supplemental irrigation, this is the time to make sure that supplemental irrigation is working just as well as it possibly can. My number one tip for spring is let's infuse the soil with life. I think there's nothing more important in gardening than soil quality, and we think the simplest, most economical way to achieve soil quality is with our products, but there's obviously other ways like a good quality compost, things like earthworm castings, anything that adds life to the soil. We want to create a soil that can create a lot of its own nutrients, and we can do that with lively soil. And that kind of rich, healthy, lively soil is what's going to make your garden thrive, no matter what you're growing. I would start the spring with good, generous applications of blend, particularly in shrub areas and vegetable areas and flower areas and fruit trees. In lawn, I have a little different approach. I'd use either Nourish Biosol or our Value Rich because it's nitrogen and warm temperatures that makes lawn green and green up quickly. Unless you have really terrible lawn that has trouble with drainage, has trouble with fungal disease, then I'd use a blend on the lawn also. So that's my number one recommendation for spring. Let's start with feeding the soil, and let's do it a little bit early so we can take advantage of rain to properly activate and incorporate whatever way you choose of infusing the soil with life. Maybe you have some ideas for important things to do in the spring. Fill us in on those in the comments below. And if you enjoy videos like this and think Chip and I are on the right track, then please subscribe and tell all your friends and relatives and even people you don't know.